So I thought I'd share a little bit of my story of how I found yoga and my journey as a teacher. So in 1993, I moved to New York to be a dancer in a modern dance company here in New York City. And my friend took me to my very first yoga class at Jivamukti Yoga. And it was a very cool place. There were like some celebrities, and everyone was talking about all this stuff I had no idea about. I was 17. And the spirituality stuff and Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and we'd have classes. Krishna Das used to come, and before he was Krishna Das, and give little kirtans, little satsangs, um, weekly, just to a little group of 10, 12 people. So I didn't know what anyone was talking about, but I knew there was something there that was interesting and different and needed for me. And I was quite young and trying to be a dancer. So I was doing dance classes and rehearsals and small bits of performances, but I also had to bartend and wait tables, and I also decided to go to school for massage therapy around that time. So I started teaching quite early. It was before there were very organized teacher training programs. There were teacher training programs in New York, like Shivananda and Integral Yoga. I know had one. That's what my friend took. But Jivamukti was doing kind of more casual teacher training programs where it was just uh, people being brought together to talk about these different topics, not so organized at that point. And I took quite a lot of workshops and sat in on a bunch of trainings, but I didn't have a formal teacher training certificate at the time. But I started teaching to my friends, and at the bar before our shift, I would teach just pretty much parroting what my teacher said, with no great real understanding of what it was. But that's sometimes what you do. And so I started teaching around 94, 95 maybe, not well, but teaching, and slowly kind of evolved a teaching practice. In the meantime, then later on, I can't remember the exact year, but took a 200-hour program and later a 300-hour program with a Jivamukti teacher who was no longer at Jivamukti, was at a different place called Atmananda Yoga, but took a 200 and then a 300 there with her, and then started teaching more formally at that point, studio classes, privates, at doctor's offices. I was then a massage therapist and worked in some doctor's offices, so I came up with little things for the patients there at the doctor's office, as well as doing massage. In the meantime, still in New York, so maybe mid-late 90s at this point, yoga really had a boom around that point. Big conferences, visiting teachers, workshops, trainings. Everyone came to New York, seemed like to me, around that time to give training. So I was able to study with Rodney Yee and did an additional 200 with him. And then got involved with the Anusara, which was really big around that time. Studied with John Friend just a little bit, not too much, but some of his kind of senior students, Elena Brower, Lois Nesbitt, a few of his senior staff, and did what they called immersions. These are like little 30-hour trainings. I did several of those immersions. Then I found Alan Finger in, I'm so bad at dates, but I think it was probably 2005. I don't exactly remember. He was still in YogaWorks in Midtown. It was before the Ishta studio had opened. And one of my friends who was in medical school, but also just a fellow teacher I had met along the way, Rajiv, introduced me to Alan Finger. He's like, you're really gonna like this guy. He's a great teacher. Took me to one of his classes, and Alan started talking about the fetal development of the Nadis, and I was like, that's it. This is something. And he was so jovial and like joy filled, and not taking himself seriously, not taking you seriously, which I really needed, because I was quite a Pitta student, quite a intense study, and I took the study of yoga quite seriously, the study of myself quite seriously, the study of teaching quite seriously. And something about meeting him really kind of cracked things open for me to bring levity, to not take yourself seriously. Taking yourself seriously is actually an impediment to these teachings, right? To this understanding. And so I credit him quite a lot for shaking me up out of that and letting myself be, fully who I am, which is a little bit silly, a little bit weird, and not so serious, even though this is quite a serious study. So he really also helped in my teaching bring together what I knew from the science world, what I knew from the study of the body, kind of along a similar track. I've just always been really interested in the body. So I did a lot of study, dissections, auditing classes, medical school classes, and along with the massage therapy classes and things in that world. And I had this information kind of from a more anatomical world. And Alan had all of this information of the energy body and all these different Kriya techniques to map the energy body. And there was just this opening of understanding of how the two of them marry, right? How they play with each other, how they inform one another. So I was extremely thankful to him and his work for stimulating that part of my teaching. And then about, I don't know, 2010, 11, 12, I'm not really sure. I met Yogarupa Rod Stryker, just decided kind of on a whim. He actually taught at Jivamukti, came as a visiting teacher to Jivamukti, and I think I was probably 18. I'm 45 now. But he was teaching, and I remember at 18, I was just like, it was just so all over my head, and I was not interested. But he really, finding him again, he was teaching a workshop, like a training, a 30-hour training in Mexico. And I just really wanted a trip to Mexico. And I really wanted, yoga retreat. But I thought, oh, this will be good. He's super smart. And I can be in Mexico and do this retreat. And it changed me, it changed me again. He's a master teacher, incredible set of knowledge, holds the teachings incredibly sacred, and shares them with a lot of integrity. And learning and sitting with him for the next, I don't know how long it's been, maybe 8 or 9 years. He allowed me to, sometimes I think like Alan Finger taught me I am perfect as I am, right? Everything I need to know, I already have inside of me. There's nowhere to get to. I'm perfect. All is light. All is bliss, and I needed that at the time. And then Rod said, yeah, you're perfect. And there's some work to be done, and go into the darkness, right? To do that work, to excavate that work, right? Look at your patterns and what's not going well. And we have the power as tantrikas to affect change in our life, right? To break those patterns, to move forward. So that was not pleasant work. It is not pleasant work, but it's very transformative. I don't use that term lightly. It is transformative to my life and also to my teaching, right? And help my teaching evolve. And continue to study with him to this day, although through the pandemic, it's been very challenging. So what I see in my teaching in the future, and where I hope to go next, is most of my teachers have been male and have been white men with ties to India, with ties to very senior, powerful yogis that came from South Asian countries. But I'd really like to now study with a woman, and perhaps South Asian women with some crone energy. As I get older, I just would really like to develop that part of my teaching, and to hear from a different voice and someone that holds maybe more feminine energy and feminine understanding of these teachings. That's where I hope to. I have a few teachers that I'm dabbling with now, so I hope that's where it goes in the future. So my teaching kind of developed slowly, and I hope it continues to develop. It started by teaching just a few classes here and there to friends and family. I think I went full time probably around 2002-ish. And it's been full time ever since. I started, of course, with group classes and privates. Friends and family and word of mouth kind of recommendations, private set up by studios that I worked for, that kind of thing. I did try to dabble in retreats. I've done maybe, I'm not great on details, but like 5-6 retreats, international retreats. While they're quite nice because you get to go away, and usually into really beautiful locales, I didn't find them financially feasible. Some people really know how to do that well, and seek out their knowledge, but I don't have the knowledge. I found them, I kind of would break even on all of them, which was fine because, I got to go away to places I wouldn't normally be able to afford to go away to, but I didn't find them financially feasible to continue to do until I figure out the matrix behind them. I think also they're quite a lot of energy because you're with a group of people for, let's say, 7 days, and you're holding that space. You can get away and you can, have boundaries, of course, but that's a lot of energy to hold for many people for many days. You're responsible for the logistics and the also their journey and their yoga for that long. So I found that also energetically pretty challenging. If you have some kind of setup where you have an assistant or someone that's facilitating, I think that's pretty lucky and pretty great. But for me, I haven't really been able to crack that. I really like small trainings, mini trainings. So traveling around the time I started full time, I started teaching in a lot of different teacher training programs, mostly anatomy-based or energetic anatomy-based stuff. I developed my own 200-hour teacher training. Oh, I should have looked up these years, but too early. I set up my own 200-hour teacher training. Maybe it was early 2000s. And then later a 300-hour teacher training program under the name Kaya Yoga, Kaya, meaning body. And ran that for several years, and then developed in 2013 maybe, the Meta Anatomy brand, or the Meta Anatomy kind of brand of workshops, and which developed into mini trainings, which developed into 100-hour training. During the pandemic, I decided to put those trainings online. 3 out of the 4 trainings are online right now. available on my website if you want to look into it, but they're like 20-hour chunks of online training on the nervous system, 20 hours on breath, bandha, and mantra, and 20 hours on the essentials. So the kind of the essential joints that you are responsible for and get the most questions about in teaching. So knees, shoulders, sacrum, lower back, and then a segment on the energy body, what you need to know there. So the next 20 hours is on the core module, which is the digestive system, the stuff you find in the core, the psoas, the hips, the abdomen, digestive system. These are all kind of in the core module, which will be out in fall 2021. I was able to put those online and start to kind of pivot my teachings online, which I hope will allow me to reach more people and travel a little bit less. I started traveling quite a lot with my meta anatomy trainings and workshops and teacher trainings worldwide. That sounds really fancy. It was only in, 5 or 6 countries, but I started traveling, which I really enjoy because I like traveling and I like being in new places and meeting new people, but it's a drag on your body. It's pretty tough on your body, and sometimes can be financially okay, sometimes not so much. So I'm hoping that maybe with this online stuff and people being more open and figuring out how to translate stuff online, I'm hoping that can help me reach more people and be a little bit more fluid with where I live or my lifestyle here. Let's see what else the questions are here. Who do I teach now? Oh, I don't teach any group classes now. Kind of right before the pandemic, maybe a year or two, maybe 2018, 2019, I really pulled back from group classes. This is kind of just my opinion here, all this is my opinion, but where group classes were heading, where I saw at the studios that I was involved with were heading, was students that just wanted like an exercise, or students that really weren't dedicated to a particular school or teacher. They were just kind of on a coupon, and they'd stop by once so you never see them again, or they wouldn't stay for shavasana. They came in late, they wanted to sweat and stuff. And I just felt a little disappointed, and like I wasn't going to be a good teacher for them for that. And so I found much more joy and interest and love of being able to craft things private students, craft things individual for one student, and teaching trainings to teachers. Teachers have a level of interest and a level of body literacy and nerdiness that I really enjoy, because I too have a level of nerdiness that I like to share. And I feel these teachings are really important and powerful, and go beyond the exercise component, of course, that is more popular. And so it is my passion to share that, and I find that teachers are the most interested in that. So I'm not opposed with going back to group classes. I think now we're seeing a shift, perhaps because of the pandemic, of studios closing, studio models changing, at least here in New York. And I think that might then start developing these smaller classes again, where people are really interested in the depth of study that maybe we got away from a little bit. So it might return, and I might return to group classes. However people want to learn, I want to be involved. But right now, no group classes, some privates, and mostly these teacher trainings. Do you have Other yoga work full off the mat outside of teaching class, writing, consulting, podcasts, or online offerings. Yes, so I have those online classes. I'm involved in a few different podcasts, like as a guest, but I have not started my own podcast. That doesn't sound appealing to me, although I enjoy being on people's podcasts. I did write a book. I wrote 4 books. My first book in 2003. 2003, I think. I co-wrote a book with my friend Jill Camera and Adrian Burke, one of my first teachers, Adrian Burke. And it's called The Yoga Fan. And then in 2013, I wrote Meta Anatomy Volume 1. And then I think it was 2018, Volume 2, Meta Anatomy Volume 2. Those were then purchased by a publisher called Sounds True, based in Colorado. And they are, I wrote an additional book and rewrote the first 2 books, squished them all into one big book called Meta Anatomy, and that is due out July 27th, 2021, so just in a few weeks. And right now I've put kind of everything I know into the world. With the book and these trainings put online, everything that I've been teaching for the last maybe 15 or 20 years will be out in the world. So now I got to learn some new stuff, which I'm both terrified and excited about. I think I'm going to go into a bit of a cocoon for the next couple of years and start to think about what needs to be shared and what I'm most interested in, and come up with a whole new set of workshops, trainings, or books that I'd like to be out in the world and that I'd like to share. So stay tuned. I don't know what it is yet. If you have ideas, please email me. But that's hopefully what comes up next. Are you happy with the balance of your work? What do you find your favorite or most challenging aspects? If there is something you would like to change, what is it? Happy with the balance of your work. That's tough. I'm happy with teaching. I wish I had a little bit more opportunity to teach. My whole life is yoga. From the moment I wake up and explore my practice and check in with my meditation, and then I do studying and writing and talking with friends about it and investigating and teaching and the refinement of the teaching, and then I go to bed. My whole life is about the study and sharing of yoga. I would like to have the opportunity to share more, to teach more, to find a way to share more that is financially positive, but also deals with my energy in a positive way, right? It doesn't overwhelm me or swallow me up or make me feel depleted. So I'd like to kind of, I think we're always kind of walking that line of trying to figure out the energy exchange of money and this work and how we navigate work in our own lives. I don't know if anyone has it figured out or perfect. No one has it figured out or perfect. But I continue to kind of try to find that line. Anything else I'd like to share? I think the biggest advice, the best advice I've been given, and one that I give to students, especially in teacher training programs, is to keep your studentship up. Your studentship will inform your teaching. The moment you stop being a student, the Shakti is gone. You no longer, it's stale, right? And you can see it in teachers sometimes if they're kind of have fallen away from their practice a bit. not saying you need to do a 6-hour practice and a 50-day silent retreat and, like every single um, month, but a consistent stepping into the stream of yoga, a daily practice, whatever it looks like, however modest, however extreme, right? But a daily practice of dipping into the stream of yoga, a study with a teacher that you find inspiring and uplifting and interesting, a continual relationship with a teacher or teachers, um, uh, that can help you, refine your own practice, which will then refine your teaching. Um, the level of your studentship, I think, is my biggest piece of advice, to keep up your studentship, and your teaching will come, right? The teaching comes just with time and refinement, and from your own building awareness and knowledge. Um, I think that's my biggest piece of advice. So I'll leave it there for you. Please reach out. I'm always here. I'm always around. So please reach out if you have questions, or if I didn't answer something that you were hoping to get out of this. And I wish you the best of luck. And it's an honor, very much an honor, to be on the path with you.